I will send Congress a budget that will create new jobs in manufacturing and energy and innovation and infrastructure.
Yippee! But how will he pay for it?
We'll pay for every dime of it by cutting unnecessary spending.
Give me a break. They never cut anything. This budget asks for billions more for things like universal preschool.
It is right for America.
Billions more for infrastructure.
But you need to fund these projects.
But we're already $17 trillion in debt. Must government spending only go up?
This is federal spending per person since America began. It started low, less than 5% of the economy. Here's World War I. Here's World War II. Used to go down after wars, but now, even in peacetime, it only goes up. Pretty soon, we're up here. How are we going to pay for that?
When you grow up, you're going to discover that you've been left with this massive, massive debt. I just want you to know I was concerned about it. It is into the trillions. And I did scream for you, stop burying us in debt. Our grandchildren are going to have to pay for it. But I couldn't get anybody to listen. But I promise you, I did try. I hope you know that I cared.
If you look at what countries like China are doing to this country, they are eating our lunch. We're building China. We are really building China because everything we make is made in China or other countries. It's not made here. We don't make things anymore.
Business people, pretty simple. If you're paying $12, $13, $14 an hour for factory workers, and you can move your factory south of the border, pay $1 an hour for labor, hire a young 25, that's assuming you've been in business for a long time, you've got a mature workforce. Pay $1 an hour for your labor, have no health care, that's the most expensive single element in making a car, have no environmental controls, no pollution controls, and no retirement, and you don't care about anything but making money, there will be a giant sucking sound going south. There will be a giant sucking sound going south.
This is Puebla. The blue lines are the trains to the North American region. The red lines are the shipping routes to South America, to Brazil and Argentina, and to the Caribbean, Australia, Japan, and China.
4 out of every 10 cars made here go to the U.S., VW Mexico's most important customer.
Mexico is now the world's 4th largest exporter of autos and cars, with a number of major multinational giants like GM and Volkswagen and Nissan having major factories in Mexico. And when you look at why, I think there are 2 main reasons for this. The first is, as you know, Mexico is a member of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And that means that they can export their goods and services into the United States without paying tariffs. Now, if you're a car maker looking to get an edge, that is a crucial issue for you. So Mexico has effectively become a staging post into this hotly contested and highly prized market for automakers. The second thing is labor and the cost of wages here. According to Bank of America, Mexico is now more competitive than China. And certainly when you look at assembly line wages in the United States, workers here get 20%, an estimated 20% of what workers get in the United States.
These are pictures of Detroit. When you pursue the gains from trade, let Japan produce the cars instead of the United States producing the cars, what does that look like? It looks like, in our case, it looks like the loss of a city. It looks like a city like Detroit that loses population, people move away, that has infrastructure that's falling apart, houses that are falling apart, churches that are empty, and full of rats and other icky things that I don't like to think about, buildings that are collapsing, complete blocks of cities that have been bulldozed down. That's what it looks like in a particular community when we specialize in trade.
One of the questions that's often asked is, how critical is manufacturing to our society? During World War II, under siege by Hitler, and Hitler's capabilities were relative to manufacturing. He had the most powerful manufacturing sector, producing weapons, artillery, and being able, by their technologies, to be able to move forward with a very aggressive capability. They were manufacturing faster, better than anyone on Earth. The technologies that were in play in Germany, and one of those technologies was ultra-hard materials, and known as tungsten carbide. A company in the United States basically took that development and produced an armor-piercing shell, or armor-piercing artillery. So therefore, the Americans were suddenly to equip Europe with weapons that could now penetrate the heavily armored German vehicles, and suddenly they were no longer just able to roll through town taking over Europe, and then that reversed the trend at war. So I don't know how much more powerful you need manufacturing to be, that they're in the hands of the wrong nation. We are defenseless without manufacturing, and we may not be as fortunate to be able to pick up the phone and phone on the other side of the world and say, hey, help us out. If you shut down all of the factories, what you are in effect doing is transferring wealth from one society to another society, and the effects of that can be measured clearly in dollars and cents. In our case, it can be measured by our deficit. And if factories are vanishing and the numbers are increasing, we need somehow to be able to have a correlation between the two. We need to be screaming, we are piling debt on top of debt, on top of debt, on top of our children. And we've gone well beyond them into our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, who will never see what should be, our job. Our economy was funded, the roads were paved from the dollars earned from production. We didn't build the roads and then decide to start manufacturing. We manufactured, generated wealth that built the roads, built government, built schools. We need to be able to manage ourselves. And right now, we are not being managed. Right now, we are simply a victim of what's happening in other parts of the world.
Any system that really is going to work in the future, when it seems like workers are facing this storm of automation, they can't stop that. Robots take people's job, and when they don't, it's people in countries overseas who work for a fraction of what people will work for here in America. I mean, that's only going to get worse. How are we going to deal with that?
Well, I think that's very crucial to understand how serious that has been. The early histories of capitalism in our country and other parts of the world, for the last 200 years, we built up an industry in the North America, Western Europe, Japan, those places. Capitalists made money there and they built their industries there. But the logic of capitalism, which is to make a buck, and to make as many bucks as you can, has now, in the last 30 years, said, why are we doing this in the countries of North America, Western Europe, where the wages are pretty high, where the workers have struggled successfully to have a middle class? We don't want that anymore. We can do much better with the modern jet engine, with the modern telecommunications. We can produce far away in China and India and Brazil, paying a tiny fraction of the wages, and boy, are we going to make a lot of money. And that's what they've been doing, and that's what they're going to continue to do. And it means that the old centers of capitalism, us, are in a position of being abandoned by the very system that brought us up, but is now moving on. And if we don't do something as a nation to hold that in, to prevent that from continuing, we're looking at a situation in which cities like Detroit and Cleveland that we now see as such problems are going to become much more typical of our country than even they are now. And I find that a very scary proposition, and I'm doubly scared by the fact that we seem to be a nation that is wary of confronting the problems of capitalism because we have this history of a one-sided celebration.